Peace, peace. Are we live on both? I think I'm. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to go live on Instagram and got it. What a privilege to bear. This message is not going to take too long. Um, I just wanted to basically share. It's 4:40. Today is 9/25, 2024. And I'm going to be doing this a lot. The reason why is because it's necessary. Um, there are a lot of people who are trying to gather certain layers and levels of understanding, and some of us have it. And it's best if we operate from the infinite space that we are versus feeling or being in spaces where we feel limited to what it is that we could provide. And that's kind of part of like what I wanted to share. Peace to the star. Um, every time I go live, I be having music in my head. I'm over here singing, but there are levels of what it is that you are here to garner for yourself. Also, layers of what it is that you've been here to retrieve that has been sold within you, all in the knowing that you would one day come. There's so much intention in our existence, but a lot of times we do not recognize that because we are in the position of trying to convince our physical of its purpose when really all we have to do is connect to the truth of who we are to be able to operate in the truth of what is. You don't really got to do a lot of convincing. You do, however, have to take care of the vessel of the body in a way where you are creating borders and parameters for you to receive and have a greater receipt of your soul and learning to move forward in healing, gaining higher levels of understanding and connecting to myself and sitting still, being with my team. There are layers of what it is that I could have not previously perceived prior. Um, Sierra, be quiet. I could not have perceived prior to knowing beforehand had I not actually went in seeking what it was that I desired. And that's a part of it. Um, I learned about the word bear earlier this year from my professor. And when she explained it to us, she made us aware of the essence and how it came down into this vortex and how many layers it actually operates in and under. When we look at things from its origin, which a lot of times for us as you melanated beings, we want to find, you know, pre-Gnostic text. We want to find things that are not English, because we are so much more than that. We need to try to access things that have, you know, a Sanskrit layer where we could be able to dive deep into what this means for us because of who we are intrinsically. Um, and that's important, that's vital. Getting back to what I was talking about, there's a layer in which when you process the word bear, Behr, that you understand that there is a privilege and a responsibility to the light that you're carrying. And what I feel like I had the privilege and the opportunity of being, seeing 444. Oh, I love spirit. Oh, I love that. Um, I had the privilege of being able to sit with me to receive at a different rate. Sometimes, sometimes we're ashamed of the fact of of the fact that we had to experience something. Okay, sometimes that we convince ourselves of the lie of what our experiences have or were or why, right? We sometimes allow things to be concrete when they were really, really, really meant to continue to flow. and we allowed things to die out when we were really meant to nurture things. When my team came to me today, they made it clear that there has been a lot of energies that have come in and sown what it is that you now get to unearth, but in earth. You know, you get to basically ground this energy into this vortex at this time. And in that understanding, there's layers of protection that has been placed over what it is for a lot of us to receive. There's layers of non access that has been permitted for a lot of us for what it is that we are to receive. There is a communication and also a community of existence, of energy that is present, of what it is that we are here to ground and receive. And there's a responsibility for the sacrifices and the love that was placed before us for us. You know, um, many of our ancestors basically allowed themselves to be rooted in a knowing that one day what it is that they knew to come would come, but they just had to be okay with nurturing it. They had to be okay with retrieving what they could retrieve, doing their part, making their contribution to be able to actually bear the light that now you actually hold, that you are actually, you know, allowing to be seen at a rate that it may have not been received or seen before. And in that, there are certain layers of circumstance where we have to operate off of the truth of what is and no longer like facilitating or even living in lies that can't really hold it can't hold a match to the reality of what has occurred within you. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times what we don't understand is that when we've convinced ourselves that in engagement something affects us, we are literally contributing to giving access. So what do I mean by that part? Say that you experience a trigger. We now know triggers are opportunities for us to be able to gather trauma. Triggers show up in agitation in the physical vessel, in your energy. It shows up as discomfort sometimes. And there's a response emotionally if you are unaware of how to perceive your next steps that are best suited for you. So if you are operating in a space where you've engaged trigger, and say that trigger comes into your vortex and we're at the trigger station, right? If you don't know that a trigger station exists, if you aren't aware of what it is that you are carrying within, if you haven't set up certain parameters for you to be protected so you can receive higher layers of yourself and higher wisdom and perspective and just ways of being, there are things that are facilitating for you in your experience unconsciously because of your choice in what it is that you're doing. So I'm gonna go off subject a little bit, I feel, but I want to say it. When we have rates where we aren't able to forgive, when we have rates where we aren't able to accept, when we have rates where we aren't able to honor and respect um, who it is that we showed up as in a circumstance and how people received and experienced us, we are in a position where we just aren't aware yet. And that's okay. We have to be willing to be okay with where we're at. Anytime you all hear me speaking about something, I'm not necessarily creating a uniform diction of what everything should be for everybody. A lot of times you will hear me speaking to what I feel like is a group of people who are leaders, who are here to create a shift, a change, who are here to restore certain layers of balance, and who are working on creating levels of transmutation and transformation for the collective with, a source hand in what it is that they are doing. And in that, um, especially if you're at the on-site of who it is that you're going to gather, right? what it is that you're going to gather, how it is that you're going to gather. You may feel, especially if you are a leader, triggered, okay? And in that trigger, someone coming in to tell you when you know, right? But you don't know how you know, but you know. Someone coming in to encourage you to shift what you've been when this is what ego is convinced you is safe for you isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. And if we honor ourselves in receiving, the message from whoever our messenger may be, we get the opportunity to experience some really, really amazing things. And we don't require everything to be, fitted to what somebody says. We allow it to be, custom made to who it is that we are by connecting to ourselves so we know what's for us and we're able to distribute what is necessary from what we receive upon our exchange with other people. So there's a light that you're burying within. And in this light, there is, I want to say, debts that have been sold for you. But they're not debts, but you have to look at it like debt. And the reason why you have to look at it like debt is because there's a layer of honor and respect that you need to attach to how you respond to what it is that you're actually engaging with. This is this is kind of difficult for me to express because I feel like I'm speaking to multiple layers of people at the same time, but it's very easy to interpret. You desire to become the greatest version of yourself. And in your desire to be the greatest version of yourself, you are going to unearth, some lies, some habits, some untruths. You're going to unearth some ways of being and perceiving things. You're going to rid yourself of things that no longer are opportunities for you to exchange at the highest rate. And in these processes of releasing, ridding, unearthing, you know, I've heard like debilitating, okay? Like you're getting rid of this shit, you're eradicating this stuff out your way. In your way of going to do these things, there are processes that you should pick up and that will come to you naturally, but are gained really, really greatly when you allow yourself to be in receipt of things that come to restore you. And this happens when you are in a position where you are honoring and respecting the privilege, which is also a responsibility of what has came that you are in bear of, that you are carrying, right? And there are a lot of lies that are going to come into your vortex because we are debilitating and we're eradicating these lies. We're unearthing these things, right? They're going to keep on coming back because you have to have polarity in your vortex for you to continue to spiral up. There's always a negative and a positive charge, not a good and a bad, negative and positive, internal and external charge. And it needs to be in place for there to be harmony and for it to be a holistic thing. What we realize, you guys, is that there are certain rates of ourselves that we are engaging with in our actions and in our choice of even just response when we come into engagements with people. And what does that mean? If you're in a position to where you respond to the lie, that's when you give access. If you're in a position where you receive the trigger and you respond to the trigger, this is where you open up your energy for engagement. And what we have to understand when we're trying to receive soul, we're not trying, as we're receiving soul, as we are garnering more of ourselves, as we are grounding more in this physical vessel that we've created parameters for, that we get to be safe in, that we respect the covenant that we've made with, we get to understand that there is no external access that is granted or permitted. That's what the book is about, y'all. The book is about not just being aware of the higher perspectives of shifting from one rate to being at another rate. It is more so as well, it is as well about the reality that you've made a covenant with your vessel, and your vessel doesn't really know or remember, and your soul isn't sure whether or not you're it. So there's this layer of weaving and alchemizing that you do in petition to convince the body that what is experienced was necessary as the debt that could be paid in the vessel taking on the weight of what it is that had to occur for you to be able to actually gather receipt of the energy that's coming into your vortex. What happens is when you receive these triggers that allow you to say, hey, it's not just that she's getting on my nerves. It's something about the feminine energy that I've always had a problem with. I don't believe it's actually her. It's actually, the fact that I've had issues with my siblings and, my sisters, and it's actually issues that I've had with my mother. And you'll continue to go deeper and deeper down, not a rabbit hole. You're going down to actually unearth and unroot things that have fermented in your vessel just for you to be able to be in receipt of the trinkets that come, the gifts that come, the essence, the ashe that shows up internally for you, So it's like, hey, I went through this thing, spirit. I healed this thing. I give this thing. I release this thing. I receive more, spirit. All right. And it'll come in forms of many ways. It'll come anyway. I don't want to really limit how it could come to you, but you'll know that you're in receipt of it. And sometimes at the beginning stages, it's behind the counter, it's under the table, it's behind the doors, in the spiritual realm, um, solidifying itself. So when you receive it, you receive it. And that's what makes a difference when we're dealing with things on a physical level versus dealing with things on a spiritual level. Spiritual level is what it resonates among densities and beyond dimensions. Physical level, it sustains and it survives to try to mimic what it is that it's desiring for. It's never in receipt of what is. So there's layers of what you will never be able to receive because you can't receive the full essence if you keep your feet on top of the ground. You have to actually dig that dirt up. You got to actually root yourself in something. You got to nurture yourself. You have to allow this thing to grow and bloom and fester. And, so that's that. We can no longer be in position where we are allowing external engagement to convince us to be willing to open ourselves to be accessible to the things that we don't desire. With you understanding that you bear this light, that you bear this shift, you're coming to ground a layer of creation that hasn't been seen. It is out of this construct. It's something that's going to change lives for centuries and for eons to come. And you just know this to be true. You could feel it, right? And y'all, I'm one of those people. It's like I'm over here. I can feel it come. Okay. Yeah, you could feel it though, right? So as you feel it, there's things that you get to basically honor in knowing. One, there's been so many people, so many ancestors, so many beings that have came in and connected with and that are hands on in you garnering and you receiving what you will have. Not even just what's necessary, but what you will have is going to happen, whether you want it to or not. It will happen, right? So it's like with you being in a position, and not just whether you want it to or not, this is a privilege. A lot of times I feel like without us really trying to, we make it sound like a burden when we are doing things that are spiritual, but it's not. It's a privilege. You don't understand the honor that I have being able to see the light, in my great great grandmother's eyes, and knowing how she knew that she carried the seed that would then shift our family's trajectory to be able to ascend to higher rates. She knew that she carried me within the seed, within the seed, within the seed. She knew that, so it's like, and she spoke that over her kids. My great grandmother spoke that over her kids. She may have bared her contribution at a certain rate, but she knew that she was contributing to the seed of the seed. My grandmother knew that she needed to be hands on. It was something that my grandmother did. Um, Bless her, that was so subtle and it was so intentional and it was so powerful that it caused me to sit still and just be in a space with her where I have to resonate at a different rate what it is that she done for me. As kids, we really don't understand everything that's happening. And in us not fully understanding everything that's happening, we don't get why people were who they were to us on a physical level. Sometimes it's not until people have transitioned and you give yourself the opportunity to receive them at that rate and nurture and, feed and honor and love at that rate, that you get to actually receive the full understanding if that's for and meant for you to do. And with her, I know that she never really talked to me about the things that I've experienced. She did talk to me a lot, but as all adolescents, as all kids that have forgotten, right? As all was necessary to be. It was supposed to be like this. I was supposed to not, receive her at the rate that was necessary on this side and get her and garner the layers of understanding and the inheritance that she's enriched me with spiritually, because I want and I desire the truth in the spiritual. I desire what is fully connected to my essence. And when she showed up for me, she showed up in a rate where it was me being able to have access to her on, like the weekends. And just a quick story time. Back then, my grandmother didn't drive, y'all. So I would have circumstances where I would be catching the bus after I got off the school bus. She even set it up for me to where she would like have buses, like, they're called Tark 3 in Kentucky. She would have buses come and meet me, and I would get on these buses. So she would schedule appointments, all right, pay the people the ticket for me to be able to come and actually meet her at certain places, just so I could be able to spend time with her and so I could be with her on the weekends after sometime as a child. And the time that she came in, I'm aware now she stopped the trauma that was occurring with me by me not being there. She created a layer of communication etherically between my father's mother and herself that created friction on the surface, right? That I had to deal with when I was dealing with my father's mother. But because I had cocooned myself and I wasn't really in remembrance fully of the traumas that had occurred, a lot of the arguments and a lot of the dissonance that occurred and a lot of the friction that was present, I was unbeknownst to. I just thought it was my grandma just being jealous. But my granny came in and she created layers of protection for me. Now, I seen her relationship with my other, cousins, with my other siblings, and they weren't always, the best. We don't have to like judge or weigh anything that anybody does. We get to honor it because we get to understand that whatever they did was their contribution, okay? But I got to see it, and a lot of times, like I said, if we are unaware of the triggers that are occurring within our vessel, if we are unaware of the exchange that's happening at what rate it's happening, we will label things and mislabel things. We will program experiences as a certain way, and we will interpret things at a certain rate that leave us inadequate in the receipt of what it is that we are carrying. So you may not be able to actually honor your ancestors on the spiritual realm, right? You may be in a position to where once you see them, because you remember the trauma, because you're in receipt of the trigger and you done took this pathway, right? You may not be able to look beyond or go beyond the experiences of what has happened, because you are only looking at it from a surface layer. That's why at the trigger station, we understand that we release and we detach from everything. So we're giving this thing to spirit in a way of saying, I trust you, because that's all it takes a lot of times. Gratitude is amazing. When you pair gratitude with trust, there's a layer of saying, not only I'm grateful for this and I appreciate this and I'm so eager for this, because in gratitude you eager for gratitude, like, yes, like I could have had anything but I have this. It's like yes to this, right? Not only am I in gratitude for this, right, but I'm also in a position to where I get to honor this space because I recognize what it is that is occurring. There's no rate of anything that you could actually interpret on a physical level if you aren't willing to receive the depth of what has occurred. And a lot of times we want to stagnate ourselves in this space because we're trying to figure something out. When you recognize that mind is, the generator of some of the most amazing things that you will bring into this construct, we honor the mind even with layers of heart, because that's where your love is and that's where you're operating from. We honor, you know what it is, and we respect what it is that has occurred in an experience, you know, with the destruction of a lot of the things that we had to actually destroy, that we had to experience in the fall down, because we had to gather what it was that we were here to receive. And truth and trusting, love, honoring, respecting, all of those beautiful high vibrational entities and energies are necessary in you being able to actually see and receive you at a different rate. And one of the things that I've recognized, going back to what I was saying with my grandmother, was when she came in, a lot of times it wasn't always fun because she was having me clean up, y'all. Okay. I would come over there and I'm telling it, Granny. She would have me cleaning up, and she said, tell it. And this is like, I knew at my other grandma's house that the other kids was over there, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, that they were over there having fun and playing games, okay? So when I went to my grandma's house and she had me cleaning, wiping walls, y'all, cleaning the baseboards, washing clothes. I was talking to the elders in the nursing home, or the assisted living place that she lived in. Um, when she had me doing all of this stuff as a kid on the physical, I perceived this as punishment almost for something that I had done wrong. Um, and I allowed it to be punishment to my other grandmother because I perceived that she had done something wrong, because I was always present in spaces that I found myself to be in. And I would hear conversations that I did not like, that were pointed towards my mother and my father and us as children and who we were compared to our other relatives. And I just didn't like it, and I let her know. So I looked at what people had convinced me that I was. I looked at myself as a rebellious child, right? Because that's the label that they had given me, my parents, and different family members, because I wasn't so easy to get along with. I wasn't so easily influenced. I wasn't so easy to listen. And in me experiencing the lie, I open myself up to storing certain levels of untruths within my vessel that I have basically been eradicating and debilitating. I like that word, debilitate. That means you taking the feet off and there's no stability in this sucker, right? So, and if it's going to be stable, especially internally, it ain't it, right? So, yes, I recognize my granny was conditioning me, y'all. She was conditioning me. She was teaching me spiritual tools. She was making me aware of how important it was on Sundays to wash and clean your house and clean your clothes. She showed me how to properly make a bed and how to organize my items. She spoke to me at a rate where I was able to receive the wisdom that she had there for me to receive. And you could be okay with yourself. Don't punish yourself if you experience the relative and you know that they were giving you information and you think that because you didn't value what they said that you didn't get it. Soul remembers. Your subconscious stores all of this stuff in here, right? And the more you heal yourself, the more you nurture yourself, the more you engage with what it is that you're desiring, you get to retrieve all of that stuff. Someone told me, my professor told me, when I first started, coming into layers of what I knew to be my essence, and I kept on feeling like I smoked so much weed that my memory isn't what my memory should be. And I know that I'm forgetting shit. And it's just, I was so frustrated because I knew that I was missing something. And she told me, don't worry about it. It'll come back. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. And I want to give that all to you. I want to give that gift to you all as well, because it will come back. It will definitely, most definitely come back 512, and seed you with the rate of what it is that is really, 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 really organic to you. But Spirit is encouraging us to understand that all contributions that have played a part in us retrieving the light in which we bear at this time, what we are grounded at this time, are to be appreciated at a rate where we don't disregard what has occurred in the exchange. And we get to be in a space where we respect it, knowing that it's a privilege to come into this space, to actually have access to this light. And we continue to engage with ourselves at a rate where we're honoring, where we're forgiving, where we are accepting, where we are loving, where we are exchanging with ourselves at the highest rate possible. What do some of these things look like physically? It looks like I feed myself a certain way because there's a layer of communication that happens when I eat certain food. It looks like I feed myself a certain way because there's a layer of protection by not putting abnormal objects into my body. It's like I communicate at a certain rate because I understand the power of my words and my voice. And I even understand how much I've been restricted in this space, especially when you are in receipt of certain traumas, depending on who you are, what your life path is, what your mission is, what your expression is this lifetime. I honor what comes out of my voice box. It's not going to always show up perfect because we are here having a physical experience. So I get to honor when I mess up, because I'm a mess up. I mess up all the time. We understand that the physical isn't what's perfect. The soul is. Spirit's perfect. And we don't try to go inside and fix or create a perfect thing. You just retrieve a perfect thing. And in our perfection internally, we desire for that to be external, and it will come. But it comes with you continuing to be in a space where you honor what it is that you've been privileged to bear, understanding and recognizing the many, many, many souls that came to place, soul, to root, to plant, to nurture, to restore, to restrict, even sometimes, because some generations had to keep things under wraps because it wasn't time yet. Everybody had a different reason for their season. And if we get in a space where we get to accept and we honor, and we ought not be ashamed of what it is that we're coming to actually create and resurrect in this space, we get to be at a rate that is amazing and is so intentional and personal to us. It means so much to us, and it means so much to the ones that have come before. Because, like I said, my great, 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 great grandmother knew that she bared the seed of 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 the seed that would one day bloom. And maybe, just like the bamboo trees, but it's a different type of bamboo tree, y'all, because we're talking about eons and centuries, okay? We're talking about millennias, right? We're talking about time that can't really be, measured, right? Um, it's something that you get to continue to just nurture. And you may not necessarily see any fruit. You know, some of us are aware that we're at the point where, it's already broken ground. We see the fruit on the trees. We not necessarily sure of how to go about dictating or deciding which fruit is ripe and ready for the picking. Oh, Queenie. Um, Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm so like I'd be so distracted and I'm singing Queenie song in my head. I love her. Okay. Um, but we understand that at this point that it's time, right? So there's a layer of protection that you must put over yourself. There is a layer of covering that you must put over yourself. There's some biological things that you must understand about yourself. We have to recognize, especially you melanated beings, and I talk about you melanated all the time because that's what I am. All right. That's where my expertise is. Okay. All right. So, but yeah, when you understand that at your rate, you are already in receipt of something that has been what is considered Gnostic, what is considered hidden, and they're trying to hide it from you again. They know that they won't succeed, but for some, they will have the opportunity to be able to engage with, influence, and interact with because people will open themselves up in the ignorance of not knowing what is true for them. And spirit is like, you know, not only do you understand that you must honor and respect the light that you bear because there's so many people that have come before you in order for you to garner receipt at this rate, you also know that this is a privilege. You know that this is my body, this is my temple. I made a covenant with my vessel between my spirit. I'm exchange of the highest vibrational energy, the highest timeline that's possible to me at this rate. And I'm moving and I'm ascending at a rate that I cannot be stopped. So I'm not going to allow engagement to come in on an external level that's going to dictate a different experience for me, and we have to be willing to take whatever steps is necessary for that. For me, it looked like I had to relinquish my connections to people, to things, to places, to experiences. So sometimes we love a thing so much that we just want to keep on experiencing it, but it's ran its course. You have to be willing to relinquish the things that are no longer in alignment and allow yourself to be at a rate where you get to be honoring and understanding the what's been sold and the debt that's been, weighed. Because in you understanding and fully interpreting the debt that's been weighed, I get to say, hey, Granny, you did this thing, Grandma, and I see what you did. I see how you contributed, not just to me, but to our whole family. And I see how you created a level of shift with your, entry and your departure, right? And how we're able to receive you even now at a different rate because of who you are spiritually. I get to acknowledge that. I don't have to say even to my grandmother on my paternal side that there's a rate of you I'm not willing to receive. I get to honor her entry and her departure, knowing that it's created a layer of contribution that was necessary because I'm in desire of receiving spirit. And that is where a lot of our team is at. Where a lot of our support is coming in. So that's what I wanted to share today. Be in a position to where you are looking at yourself, knowing that you may be triggered by these things. You may have experienced a trauma by these things, but in your healing of these things, There's a light that you carry that you get to shine, and you get to beam onto other people just because you had the audacity to do so, right? And your team, your benevolent ancestors, your ancestors in general knew that it would be you. They knew that you were coming one day, and this day is now. The time is now. We cannot be in a position to where we are limiting ourselves, trying to create layers of understanding or of knowing, never really allowing ourselves to actually gather understanding so we can operate in a space of power and wisdom, and that's necessary. A lot of us are very, very wise beings. So we cannot engage with ourselves at rates where we are fearful, where we are timid, where we are hesitating. We got to be fully committed. If I tell spirit that this is what I want to do, I'm gonna show up every day because every day I want to do this because I could do it every day because it don't cost me nothing, right? And if I need to take a break, spirit allows me the ability to be privileged in doing so because my vessel has needs and it's a necessity, and I honor and I love and respect my vessel. It's just a communication that you're carrying on with any and everything, whether it be internal, external. A lot of times what you should allow yourself to do is to say no externally to a lot of the things, and to your spirit you say yes. This is vital because the spirit bears the truth to what is needed and necessary in the root, and vital soil breeds vital nutrients. Okay. I hope you all have an amazing day. Allow yourself to be amplified in what is actually coming to ascend you at a higher rate, for you to receive you at the highest level. Love yourself and choose differently and wisely. Do not be open to engaging with things that are lower of the receipt that you're actually requiring. And once again, for those who haven't had a reading or a session, please feel free to reach out, to retrieve, your free session. The first session is free. Beyond that, you will have to book a paid session. Um, and then also, again, I still have, I'm not going to bring that up. But yes, as well, Shifting from Play to Player is on Amazon, and you could also purchase it directly from me. The link is in the bio. Shifting from the Play to the Player. Amazing read. It's an opportunity for you to be able to have a companion that helps and aids you in higher perspectives, live while you're actually going into the event. You could literally take this book and just keep it with you, is why I made it the size that I made it. I had to take out stuff that was in there because I wanted it to be a little bit more compact, a little bit more easier to go in. If you recognize that you're at this rate, you could engage with the book at that rate, and it could help you be able to process what you're going through. But it's you and your spirit. So it allows you to be in the vortex that I created in this space with this book, but it also allows you to never take spirit off the table. I hope you all have an amazing day and be blissful. Ashe to all the beautiful, beautiful energy that we are in.